So I will do
Okay.
my best. So I will do my best to translate what Seth says for both Spanish and Portuguese. Okay.
Okay. Well, good morning or good afternoon to everyone. My name is Seth Clevenstein. I am the High Rate Information Transmission and Emergency Managers Weather Information Network broadcast manager, but I'm also acting as the GeoNetcast Americas broadcast manager, and I've been working with Diego for the last several months, monitoring and doing the technical aspects for it as well, till a new replacement has been hired. Natalia has moved on to the international affairs, and is sorely missed within the direct services branch. So we will set up the Slido session as well, so that to anybody that wants to ask questions, comments, please by all means go to www.slido.com and enter the event code #GNC-A, and that will bring you to that session. And comments, questions, and feedback is definitely warranted. As Diego mentioned earlier, he'll try his best to translate everything that I say into Spanish and Portuguese so everybody can understand. I just ask that everybody mute their WebEx microphones during the presentation, and we'll try to answer all the questions at the end of the presentations.
Ok, bienvenidos, buenos días o buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Seth Clevenstein y Seth es el gerente de la transmisión HRIT y Enwin, y quien ha estado reemplazando y actuando como gerente de la transmisión GeoNetcast desde que Natalia cambió su posición en NOAA en fines de 2020. Y tenemos una interfaz Slido que está disponible para hacer las preguntas y se puede utilizar el código del evento que es GNC-A. O los usuarios pueden hacer sus preguntas a través del chat del WebEx. Y se recuerda a todos que deben silenciar sus micrófonos durante las presentaciones. Y todas las preguntas serán respondidas al final de la presentación. Bem-vindo, bom dia, boa tarde. O nome dele é Seth Clevenstein. Ele é o novo gerente, ele é o gerente da transmissão HRIT Enwin, e quem está substituindo a Natália como gerente de transmissão do GeoNetcast Américas, desde que ela mudou a posição dela da NOAA, ela foi para Relações Internacionais. E tem uma interface Slido para vocês fazerem as suas perguntas usando o código de evento GNC-A, ou vocês também podem fazer as perguntas via chat. Ele apenas está pedindo para todo mundo silenciar os microfones e as perguntas serão respondidas no final, ok? Go ahead.
I'm just trying to see if I can get my. There we go. So today we would like to do a roll call. So if I can get all the attendees to announce themselves or on the phone as well.
Então, essa é a agenda do de hoje. E agora a gente gostaria que vocês fizessem a apresentação de vocês. Será aberto o microfone aí para cada um se apresentar. Entonces, esta es la agenda de hoy, con los temas para la discusión, y en este momento nos gustaría pasar al tema de conocer a los participantes del webinar que están en línea. Go ahead, Seth. So,
Okay, well, we'll capture the roll call in the comments or in the slide up. So for today, I'll be presenting the NOAA updates. This includes the product updates, any upcoming events, training events, also the status of the GeoNetcast broadcast of the last quarter, and we'll cover some user outreach questions that we would like to bring up to the users. Diego will have showcast training updates, as well as we'll have a user case scenario with MARN and RFI, and then we'll open up the floor for any kind of questions or open discussions that we do see via the Slido, and then we'll review any action items in summary. Go ahead, Diego.
Entonces, hoy vamos a presentar las actualizaciones de la NOAA el estatus de la transmisión Geonetcast Américas y todo lo que pasó en el último trimestre. Vamos a hablar un poco sobre la interacción con el usuario y Diego va a yo voy a presentar pues las actualizaciones del INPE, los temas relacionados a Showcase, entre outras coisas. Então, pessoal, na apresentação no webinar de hoje, nós vamos ver algumas atualizações da NOAA, o status da transmissão do sistema e algumas informações do último trimestre, né? E eu vou apresentar algumas atualizações do INPE, tópicos relacionados ao Showcase, processamento de dados, entre outras coisas. Go ahead, Seth.
So there is no update to the GNC-A users. I think we still have 7 locations that Diego is still working with as far as getting installations and upgrades to. Go ahead, Diego.
Este es el mapa de la comunidad actual de usuarios del sistema Genéticas Américas. Pues no ha habido ninguna actualización desde el último seminario web y actualmente estamos trabajando, ayudando a algunos países del Caribe en una licitación para la instalación de 7 nuevas estações. Então, pessoal, esse é o mapa da comunidade atual. Nós temos 95 estações. Não temos nenhuma estação nova desde o último webinar e atualmente está sendo trabalhado com o pessoal do Caribe a licitação de 7 novas estações nesses países que estão aí listados nos slides, ok? Go ahead, Seth.
So the first product update that we've done was we've added, we've done all the GO16 non-cloud moisture index or imagery, sorry, level 2 products. We compressed all those internally here at Nesdis, and that was done on February 3rd at 14Z, and essentially the internal compression on 16 different GO16 products resulted in about 5% bandwidth reduction or savings, I should say. Essentially, myself and Diego did this back on GO16 and GO17's cloud moisture imagery full disk products back in March 2020 and had a great deal of savings. There's no impact to the actual imagery products itself. Go ahead, Diego.
Pues la primera actualización de la NOAA pues, se realizó en el 3 de febrero, donde se aplicó una compresión interna a todas las imágenes del sistema de nivel 2, los productos derivados, el GOES, y lo que redujo de manera efectiva el ancho de banda total en 0,5% más o menos. Y las imágenes, los canales de GOES 16 y GOES 17 ya se comprimieron en el año pasado. Y esta compresión não tem nenhum impacto na resolução espacial e temporal dos produtos. Então, pessoal, a primeira atualização da NOAA foi no dia 3 de fevereiro, onde foi realizada uma compressão interna, que foi aplicada em todas as imagens de nível 2, de produtos nível 2 do GOES, e isso reduziu a utilização da banda em 0,5%. Essa compressão, ano passado, já tinha sido realizada para as bandas do GOES 16 e GOES 17. E essa compressão não tem impacto na resolução espacial e temporal dos produtos, ok? Go ahead, Seth.
On the same day, we also did a frequency output change on GOES. Oh, that is a typo. Sorry, Diego, I did not update that one. That should say GOES 16 frequency output change. Essentially, we've moved GOES 16's band 13 output to every 10 minutes or to match mode 6 operations. So that would be 6 times an hour instead of 4 times an hour. And this results in the savings that we had from the compression we pretty much took back with the increase in band 13's product output. This results in about 1 gigabyte more data a day for end users. And this also dramatically reduces the user latency by almost close to a minute by doing this. Long story for that one, but so this is one of the questions for outreach later in the presentation as far as should we have other primary bands, or I should say CMI bands, that we should match with mode 6 distribution. Diego?
Pues en el mismo día que se realizó la compresión, la frecuencia de transmisión de la banda 13 del GOES 16 pues se cambió al modo 6 del GOES, lo que significa que las imágenes de la banda 13 ahora están disponibles a cada 10 minutos. Y esto resultó en un aumento del ancho de banda de 0,5%, lo que al fin compensó las ganancias de la compresión de los archivos. y los usuarios deben notar un aumento de 1 GB más o menos de datos por día. Y bueno, uno de los resultados es que la latencia fue reducida a menos de 1 minuto. Ah, y una de las preguntas es, ¿cuáles otras bandas sería interesante tener também a cada 10 minutos? Pessoal, então, no mesmo dia que a compressão foi realizada, a frequência de transmissão da banda 13 do 216 foi alterada para o modo 6, ou seja, uma imagem a cada 10 minutos. E isso aumentou a utilização da banda em 0,5%, o que acabou compensando a diminuição que teve com a compactação, né? E teve um aumento de 1 GB mais ou menos de dados por dia e houve uma redução na latência para menos de 1 minuto. E uma das perguntas é que quais outras bandas seria interessante ter a cada 10 minutos também. Go ahead, Seth.
The next update we did was the Geostationary Lightning Map, or GLM data. Essentially, on February 23rd, we introduced the 22nd GLM Level 2 products that were directly received off the GRB broadcast, and we've pushed that to GeoNetcast Americas. Essentially, that results in about 0.5% bandwidth increase as well, with users getting anywhere from 1 to 2.5 gigabytes more data a day if they're subscribed to that channel. And this also reduces the end user latency from what INPE has been providing with the 5-minute aggregated GLM files. Essentially, I think me and Diego have looked at this. It's anywhere from a 20 to 30-second turnaround from when GRB distributes it. Essentially, we will need to gain users' feedback on the necessity of having the redundant 5-minute aggregated GLM product running in parallel. Go ahead, Diego.
¿Todavía pueden oírme? Can you still hear me?
I can.
Ok. Entonces, en el 23 de febrero, la NOAA empezó a transmitir los archivos GLM nivel 2 a cada 20 segundos por GeoNetcast. Y eso aumentó el uso de la banda en 0,5% más o menos. Entonces, los usuarios van a recibir pues entre 1 y 2.5 gigabytes por día, si tienes el canal activado, ¿no? Y también al agregar los archivos de 20 segundos hubo una reducción en la latencia, que es aproximadamente de 10 segundos ahora, ¿no? Y bueno, y esto se hizo porque la latencia de los datos de 5 minutos acumulados del INPE estava em mais ou menos 10 minutos, o que é muito. Então, pessoal, no dia 23 de fevereiro, a NOAA adicionou no sistema também os dados de 20 segundos do GLM, né? E isso aumentou o uso da banda em 0,5%. E isso vai aumentar a quantidade de dados em 1 a 2,5 gigabytes por dia, se você tiver o canal habilitado, né? E a latência também diminuiu para mais ou menos uns 10 segundos, né? E isso foi feito porque a latência dos dados acumulados do INPE de 5 minutos se encontra mais ou menos em 10 minutos, o que é um valor muito alto. Então, com isso, a latência dos dados do GLM no sistema diminuiu. Go ahead, Seth.
And the last update we have for this quarter was we added the total ozone analysis blended products, or TOAST. So the legacy TOAST that were available off of MEDOP and NOAA 19 blended products were removed from the product distribution access system on May 2020. So they were no longer broadcasting at that time. On March 16th, we introduced the new blended TOAST files from both SNPP and NOAA 20 OMS and CRIS instruments for the GeoNetcast broadcast. It results in a minimal bandwidth increase. It's about 300 kilobytes per day if subscribed to it. And below is the product short names that will be available in that folder of LTOAST, NTOAST, NTOAST J1 for all the blended products. Go ahead, Diego.
Entonces, en marzo, NOAA empezó a transmitir los siguientes productos que se llaman TOAST, ¿no? Que sucedieron los productos TOAST de METOP y NOAA 19. Y TOAST significa análisis de ozono total usando los sensores SBUF y TOPS. Y este es un producto diario que normalmente se crea en las 9 UTC y tiene un tamaño muy pequeño de 100 kilobytes. Y hay 3 productos en el formato grid disponibles a cada día, combinando los sensores ONS y CRIS del NPP e del NOAA 20. Então, no dia 16 de março, a NOAA começou a transmitir esses dados, pessoal, que chama TOAST, que eles sucederam os dados do METOP e do NOAA 19, e TOF significa análise de ozônio total, e utiliza os dados dos SPUV e TOVs. É um produto diário que normalmente é criado por volta das 9Z e tem um tamanho bem pequeno, assim, de uns 100 kilobytes, tá? E atualmente eles estão fazendo o upload de 3 produtos TOS no formato GRIB, todos os dias. Okay? Go ahead, Seth.
So the quarterly results, I'm just going to skip through this pretty quickly. Essentially just wanted to show exactly where the broadcast sits as far as the total usage that we have with products. And graphed in the red is the daily average utilization percentage. So that's just pretty much the whole day, 24 hours encompassed into that. Shows around just below 40% usage at this point in time. And the green highlights the max dailies that we observe, usually around the 17 to 18 Zulu hour when the ABI Go 16 product is visual product, I should say, is being distributed over the broadcast. And from this, the next slide, I highlighted one of those peaks where 70% of the bandwidth was utilized during that hour. And essentially, this comes down to a scenario where the typical CMI distribution every 10 minutes for band 13, and then all the other 8 CMI bands during the 0, 0, 10 after, 30 after, 40 after, minutes after the hour distribute. Essentially, Marn data also came in, as well as a couple JPSS, or I should say not JPSS, but NOAA 20 VIIRS passes. So this created kind of like a scenario of where the broadcast will peak at. So essentially, I wanted to just to highlight the availability of 2 different sections of time, denoted in that red box, from the 20 to 30 minute after the hour, and the 45 to the top of the hour. Essentially, those are open spots for the broadcast where we could put products in. Essentially, that's where the missing ABI, or I should say the cloud moisture imagery from Go 16 is not being distributed, only band 13. Go ahead, Diego.
Bueno, en estas diapositivas vemos algunas estadísticas de transmisión de los últimos 3 meses del sistema, con medias diarias de utilización, de utilización del ancho de banda del sistema, y actualmente la media es alrededor de 40%, que es la línea blanca, ¿no? Y los totales diarios se ven en la línea roja. Y la línea verde es pues la hora de utilización máxima de cada día, que es normalmente a las 17:00, ¿no? Y en este horario, pues, es donde tenemos los datos de los canales visibles del sensor ABI, pues, el horario que están más grandes, ¿no? Porque el globo está más iluminado. Entonces, con estos datos también tenemos en algunos momentos los datos del VIIRS, datos de modelo. Entonces, hay un pico de uso a las 17:00. Pero si ves en más detalle, ¿no? El gráfico para el pico horario, ¿no? Teniendo en cuenta los periodos de transmisión de los canales ABI en los minutos 0, 10, 30 y 40 de cada hora, tenemos la utilización de 100% durante varios minutos. Entonces, este pico muestra que, que hay una carga máxima, ¿no? En algunos minutos. Y entonces, el área de color azul en el cuadro rojo muestra los periodos de tiempo que estos picos horarios que no hay estos picos, e pode ser útil para agregar mais produtos, não? Então, pessoal, nesses 2 slides a gente viu algumas estatísticas aí do sistema nos últimos 3 meses que mostram a média de uso do sistema nos últimos 3 meses. Então, a média está aproximadamente em 40%, que é a imagem da linha branca no slide anterior. Can you go back to the previous slide, Seth? Ok. Que é essa linha branca. E na linha vermelha, você tem aí a média dia a dia, né? E a linha verde é o horário de uso pico do sistema para cada dia, que está por volta das 17 UTC. Então, se você... go to the next one, please. Se você vai ali para os horários de pico, nesse exemplo aí do dia 10 de janeiro, nos horários 0, 10, 30 e 40 minutos de cada hora, que quando as bandas são transmitidas, você tem ali um pico de 100%, né? Ou seja, essa média ela pode enganar um pouco, né? E essas zonas em azul é onde nós temos aí a disponibilidade de adicionar outros produtos sem gerar uma fila ali na transmissão. Go ahead, Seth.
So in summary, well, this is pretty much what we just. I'll skip that slide and go on to the next one. So with that being said, there's some user outreach questions that we would have, both me and Diego have. The first one is the RayNet channel optimization. So there was several products that we did remove from the broadcast that were no longer available. I should say they were just pushing the same product over and over again. But the other questions from that arise is what other channel, from this channel, what other products are still being used operationally? What about the redundant satellite imagery outside of, I should say, inside of the footprint itself, the redundant satellite imagery? And what about the imagery that's outside of the GeoNetcast footprint as well? Is there a need for that? And these are essentially JPEG, low resolution JPEGs of either Himawari data or the IODC DC data, UMETSAT data. And also, is there any GeoNetcast users using the National Weather Service international graphics? And as well, I think UCAR would like to have feedback as far as any users of this channel. Diego?
Pues la interacción con los usuarios es uno de los aspectos clave, ¿no? Para comprender lo que debemos agregar a la transmisión. Y pues vamos a intentar conocer cuáles son las necesidades de datos que tienen para la transmisión y para agregar nuevos productos y para eliminar los datos que ya no son necesarios, ¿no? Y una de las preguntas sería sobre el canal RayNet, que tiene ahí una cantidad grande de imágenes en formatos GIF, JPEGs, PNGs de baja resolución. Y hay algunos productos de satélites redundantes, ¿no? Que ya están disponibles en NetCDF. Entonces, una de las preguntas sería, es interesante tener imágenes de satélites que no están en la región de las Américas, serían útiles de algún modo. Y otra cuestión es que la NOAA y UCAR desean recibir comentarios sobre el uso deste canal. Então, pessoal, a interação com o usuário é um aspecto fundamental assim para entender o que deve ser adicionados ou tirados do sistema, né? E uma das questões é sobre esse canal que está no sistema que chama RayNet, que tem uma quantidade grande aí de imagens de diversos satélites. E uma das perguntas seria se nós temos lá imagens de dados que não estão, que
Did we lose Diego? Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, he's still there, but no mic. There he is.
Okay, well, I will go on to the next slide. The next user outreach question was what's mentioned before with the GLM 5-minute aggregated INPE product that's running parallel to the 20-second individual files. Is there a need to keep this aggregated 5-minute file available, especially with the latency? And if so, how much longer? Diego, you online?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I think I had a loss in my connection. I finished it saying what you said. So go ahead. Yes, you may go ahead.
I already did this one, so if you want to go ahead and present it.
I'm seeing the RayNet channel optimization. Yeah. Have you changed it?
Yes, I did. Paul, do you see GLM? Slide 11.
Hey, Seth, this is Eric. Yeah, I can see slide 11.
Thank you, Eric. So Diego, it looks like you're stuck on slide 10.
Hey, Seth and Diego, I can translate not as well as Diego while you, Diego, reconnect. How's that?
Oh, now I'm seeing. Now I'm seeing it. Thank you, Eric.
Oh, okay. They want to listen to my translation.
Thanks, Eric. Entonces, un otro tema que se mencionó al principio fue que los datos del GLM de 20 segundos fueran agregados al sistema, ¿no? Y entonces, pero también tenemos los datos de 5 minutos que son subidos por el INPE. La pregunta es, por cuánto tiempo deben transmitirse estos archivos en paralelo, ou se devemos seguir transmitindo estes arquivos em paralelo, não? Então, pessoal, uma outra pergunta é que, como ele mencionou no início da apresentação, os dados do GLM de 20 segundos foram adicionados ao sistema. Mas, em paralelo, a gente está fazendo a transmissão dos dados de 5 minutos, o acumulado que estão sendo transmitidos pelo INPE. A pergunta é se esses dados devem ser mantidos no sistema ou não, ok? Go ahead, Seth.
Next question will be the data collection platforms or the data collection system messages. This is essentially talking about the rebroadcasted data collection messages that are also available on HRIT MWIN. Some users have direct, I guess you could say, direct readout ground systems that get the data directly from the broadcast itself, the DCPR broadcast off GOES. So the National Weather Service does permit several DCS messages to broadcast over GNC-A, and they're mainly synoptic meteorological observations. So NESDIS maintains and can provide via the product distribution access system to GeoNetcast. So the question would be, is there a need to add these messages to GNC-A? Also, what visualization software do current GNC-A users have? And if there's a need, how many platforms? Essentially, NOAA would need feedback on this.
Uma outra questão seria sobre a possibilidade de transmitir os dados do sistema DCS por GeoNetcast Américas. Y es posible transmitir estos datos por el sistema, y la pregunta para los usuarios es si realmente necesitan estos datos y qué software de visualización se usaría por los usuarios, ¿no? Entonces la NOAA necesita comentarios a este respecto. Uma outra questão, pessoal, que sempre perguntam nos webinars é sobre a possibilidade de transmissão dos dados DCS para o sistema. E é possível transmitir esses dados pelo sistema, e a pergunta seria se realmente esses dados são necessários, qual é as opções de visualização para esses dados, e a NOAA precisa de um feedback sobre esse assunto, tá? Next, please. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, and the last slide that I have is just the upcoming training events. Thank you to Eric for giving me the RA3-4 Columbia training on satellite applications. It's coming up soon on April 4th through the 5th, 13th through the 15th. The RA4 Marne virtual training with Merigeo Week, that is projected August 2021. That's still date to be determined. The RA3 Chile virtual training event, I believe I was told was November 2021. Date still to be determined.
Pues los próximos eventos de capacitación serán el entrenamiento virtual en Colombia sobre aplicaciones de satélite para la región 3 y 4 de la ONM, que es Centroamérica y el Caribe, ¿no? Que será en el 4 y 5 y 13 y 15 de abril de 2021. Bernie dice que es 6, 7, 13 a 15 de abril. Thanks, Bernie. And también tenemos el entrenamiento virtual para la región 4 de la OMM, que será organizado por SICA y MARN en conjunto con Merigeo, que será en agosto de 2021. Y también un entrenamiento virtual en Chile sobre aplicaciones de satélites para la região 3 da OMM, que vai ocorrer em novembro. Ok? Então, pessoal, esses são os eventos que vão ocorrer aí esse ano. Tem aí o treinamento na Colômbia, treinamento virtual para aplicações de dados de satélites, que vai ser em 4 e 5 de abril e 13 e 15 de abril de 2021. O treinamento para a região 4 da OMM para a utilização de dados de satélites, que será organizado pela SICA e pelo MARN, em conjunto com a Merigeo, no final de agosto de 2021, e o treinamento para a região 3 da OMM, que vai ser organizado pelo Chile em novembro de 2021. Ok, Seth?
All right. Thank you, Diego. And that is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this time. Diego is going to take over and share his portion of the slide deck. Any questions, please, like I mentioned before, if you can go to Slido. Diego actually put it in the chat, and I can answer some of those questions on chat. We'll also revisit those questions at the end of the presentations. All right, Diego, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Seth. Can you hear my screen?
I can
¿Pueden
hear
ver
you.
mi pantalla? Are you seeing my slides? Seth?
Diego, I can see them.
Okay. Bernie's saying on the chat that she didn't have the Slido link. So if you could please send again on the chat. Hi everyone. So today I'm going to present some updates from INPE and talk a little bit about data processing. Entonces hoy voy a presentar algunas actualizaciones del INPE y hablar un poco sobre processamento de dados. Então, pessoal do Brasil, vou apresentar algumas atualizações do INPE e falar um pouquinho sobre processamento de dados, especificamente aqueles que foram adicionados recentemente ou que foi possível processar recentemente, ok? So these are the topics I have for today. So first I'll give you some links for the material from recent virtual training related to satellite data processing. Then I will show you the new showcast release and talk about some data processing aspects for some of the products on the system. Entonces, estos son los temas que tengo para hoy. Primero les voy a mostrar algunos enlaces para el material de un entrenamiento virtual reciente relacionados con entrenamiento de datos satelitales e luego voy a hablar um pouco sobre processamento de dados. Então, pessoal, esses são os tópicos da apresentação de hoje. E primeiro, eu gostaria de apresentar um link para vocês com informações sobre um treinamento que ocorreu recentemente, ok? So, starting with the training, at March 4th, this year, we had a virtual training on geostationary satellite data processing with Python. It was a single day, 6-hour course. And you may find information on the GeoNetcast Americas blog or at CPTech's Moodle page. And at this training, you may have access to the pre-course activity, check the scripts on Google Colab, have access to the slides and the 6-hour recording for these sessions. Entonces, en el 4 de marzo tuvimos un entrenamiento virtual sobre procesamiento de datos de satélites geoestacionarios con Python, un curso de un solo día de 6 horas, y pueden acceder a este curso en el blog de GeoNetcast y en el Moodle de CPTech. Entonces, pues pueden acceder a las actividades pre-taller, los scripts en Google Colab, las diapositivas y la grabación. Fue un entrenamiento para los participantes de Brasil, pero también tuvimos ahí participantes de otros países que también, aunque sean portugués, pues han podido seguir los pasos, ¿no? Então, pessoal, só repassando essa informação, o pessoal do Brasil já está a par sobre isso. É um treinamento que ocorreu no início desse mês, então eu só fiz aí um resumo do conteúdo, onde que eles podem acessar esses dados, tá ok? Lá no blog do sistema ou no Moodle do CPTech. Now talking about the showcast release. There is a new showcast version available for download at the blog. And we have some nice features on this update. Hay una nueva versión del showcast disponible para descargar en el blog y tenemos algunas características nuevas muy interesantes en esta actualização, ¿no? Então, pessoal, esse é o link para vocês baixarem a nova versão do showcast. So we have the processing and visualization of GFS data, processing and accumulation of 20-second GLM data, processing of the blended ozone data that Seth commented, the filtering and visualization of the MWS ISCS messages, and just some other enhancements. Entonces tenemos el procesamiento y visualización de datos CFS, procesamiento y acumulación de datos 20 segundos del GLM, el procesamiento de datos de ozono que el Seth comentó, e el filtrado e visualização de mensagens del ISCS. Então, pessoal, nessa atualização a gente tem processamentos de dados de modelo, que é uma adição bem interessante, processamento e acumulação dos dados de 20 segundos do GLM e o processamento dos dados de ozônio, que o Seth comentou na apresentação dele, e a filtragem e visualização das mensagens do sistema ISCS, que eu vou falar mais para frente. Now talking a little bit about the processing of the 20-second GLM data that has been added to the broadcast. First, it's interesting to comment about the problems we are having with the latencies for the GLM 5-minute accumulation that are uploaded by INPE. So as you may see here, we are having an average latency of 10 minutes, which is not good, right? And this latency is happening in our internal processing here at CPTech. So in order to solve this problem, the low latency 20-second data is being broadcasted, so users could create the accumulation for themselves. Entonces, un comentario sobre los datos a cada 5 minutos que ya está en el sistema. Como pueden ver acá, tenemos una latencia media de 10 minutos, lo que no es muy bueno, ¿no? Y esta latencia está sucediendo en nuestro procesamiento interno acá en CPTech. Entonces, para solucionar este problema, se están transmitiendo los datos a cada 20 segundos en Geonéticas Américas para que los usuarios puedan crear las acumulações por eles mesmos, não? Então, pessoal, como nós temos esse atraso, estamos tendo esse atraso de 10 minutos nos dados acumulados transmitidos pelo INPE, foi iniciada a transmissão dos dados a cada 20 segundos, para que o usuário consiga fazer a acumulação por eles mesmos, né? So here we have some examples of the GLM plots that we have on the new showcase version, where we have the option to plot the data every 20 seconds and also accumulate the data every X minutes, as configured by the user. Entonces acá tenemos algunos ejemplos de imágenes del GLM de la nueva versión Showcase, donde tenemos la opción de crear los plots a cada 20 segundos y también la posibilidad de acumular los datos a cada X minutos, de acordo com a configuração do usuário. Então, pessoal, já está disponível no Showcase os scripts para vocês plotarem tanto os dados a cada 20 segundos, como criar acumulações a cada X minutos, de acordo com a configuração de usuário, né? But how do you do that? How can we accumulate the GLM data for any given amount of minutes? So here we have an example, but that's just an example, okay? There are other ways to do it. So in this example, the first thing we do is to define for how many minutes we want to accumulate the data, which I'll call here in this slide X. Then we read the time and date from the GLM file header and separate the seconds and the minutes in different variables. And if the seconds variable is equal to 00, we have a few minute file. And also, if the minutes is a multiple of my X, so this is my end file, right? And we may enter the accumulation loop. Entonces, ¿cómo hacemos esta acumulación, no? Aquí tenemos un ejemplo para acumular los datos de GLM. Es solo un ejemplo, hay otros modos de hacerlo, pero este es un ejemplo, ¿no? En este ejemplo, lo primero que hacemos es definir cuántos minutos queremos acumular, lo que llamaré de X. Y entonces luego leemos la fecha y la hora del encabezado del archivo GLM, y separamos los segundos y los minutos. Si la variable segundos es igual 00, tenemos un minuto completo. Y también, si la variable minutos es un múltiplo de mi variable X, ese es el archivo que será el último archivo de mi loop. Entonces, por ejemplo, si mi X es 5 minutos y la variable minutos es igual a 5, 10, 15, 20, puedo ingresar al ciclo de acumulação. Então, pessoal, aqui é só um exemplo de um algoritmo de como vocês podem, assim, acumular os dados GLM a cada X minutos, independente de quantos minutos vocês desejam. Então, você lê a data e a hora do dado do GLM, se a variável segundos é igual a 00, você tem um minuto completo. Se a variável minutos é igual ao X que você deseja acumular, ou seja, perdão, se a variável minutos é um múltiplo de X, esse será o seu último arquivo do ciclo. Você vai usar esse arquivo como referência e você pode entrar no loop, ok? So, here you may see the Python instructions to do each step, defining how many minutes you want to accumulate, reading the time and date from the header, checking if the seconds is equal to 0 and if minutes is a multiple of your X, or of the minutes you want to accumulate, and entering the loop. Entonces aquí puedes ver las instrucciones Python para hacer cada paso, ¿no? Definiendo cuántos minutos quieres acumular, leer la hora y la fecha del encabezado del archivo, verificar si los segundos son iguales a 0, si los minutos son múltiples de tu X y entrar en el loop, en el bucle de acumulação, ¿no? Então, pessoal, aqui são as instruções Python que vocês podem usar para fazer cada um desses passos, tá ok? Definir quantos minutos você quer acumular, ler os dados do cabeçalho, verificar se os segundos é igual a 0, se os minutos são múltiplos de quantos minutos você deseja acumular, e você entra no loop de processamento. So, if the conditions are met, my starting file of the loop is my current file minus X, right? And at the ending of the file, and the ending file of the loop is the file itself. And then for each file inside the loop, You check if the file exists, then you accumulate the data sets you want. In this example, we are appending events, groups, and flashes, right? And then in the end of each cycle, we increment 20 seconds for the next cycle. It seems a little bit complicated, but with the training courses like the one I mentioned on the beginning, these concepts are clarified in more detail. Entonces, si se cumplen las condiciones, tu archivo inicial del bucle es tu archivo actual menos X minutos, ¿no? Y el archivo final del bucle es el archivo en sí. Entonces, para cada archivo dentro del ciclo, verificas si el archivo existe y luego haces la acumulación, en este ejemplo de los eventos, grupos y flashes, ¿no? Y al final de cada ciclo incrementas 20 segundos, ¿no? Parece un poco complicado, pero con los entrenamientos como el que mencioné al principio, estos conceptos son aclarados em mais detalhes, não? Então, pessoal, aí é uma descrição de cada passo do script do loop. Se as condições iniciais foram atendidas, o arquivo inicial do loop é o seu arquivo atual menos x minutos, e o arquivo final é o arquivo, é ele mesmo, né? Então, dentro do loop, você verifica se o arquivo existe e faz a acumulação que você desejar. Nesse caso, eu estou acumulando eventos, grupos e flashes, ok? E no final do ciclo, eu somo 20 segundos para o próximo ciclo e leio todos os meus arquivos. É um pouquinho complicado, assim, à primeira vista, mas com aqueles treinamentos que a gente está fazendo, esses conceitos são mais claros, né? So, let's talk a little bit about the GFS data processing and visualization. So in the GeoNetcast Americas product list found on the blog, you may see the GFS data that we have in the system. And basically, we have the half-degree outputs for South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, and global 1-degree outputs. Entonces, en la lista de productos GeoNetcast Américas que se encuentra en el blog, pues pueden ver los datos GFS que tenemos en el sistema. Básicamente tenemos salidas de medio grado para América del Sur, América Central y Caribe, e salidas de 1 grado global, não? Então, pessoal, na lista de produtos encontradas lá no blog, vocês podem ver os dados de modelo que tem no sistema. Então, você tem saídas de meio grau para América do Sul e América Central e Caribe, e saídas de 1 grau global, ok? And here we have some of the GFS plots available in the new showcast release. Yeah, I know that there are many combinations and representations of model fields, but on this initial set, we have some of the suggestions of some colleagues. And here I would like to thank Juan Jose from El Salvador and Regina, my colleague from CPTech, who helped me a lot in the development of these plots. And the main idea of adding these to Showcast is to provide some coding examples to process this kind of data, so users could do it for themselves. Entonces aquí tenemos algunos de los plots GFS disponibles en la nueva versión de Showcast. Yo entiendo y sé que hay muchas combinaciones posibles y representaciones posibles de campos de modelo, pero en este conjunto inicial tenemos algunas de las sugerencias de algunos colegas, ¿no? Y aquí me gustaría agradecer a Juan José de El Salvador y Regina de CPTech, quienes me ayudaron mucho en el desarrollo de estos plots. Y además la idea principal de agregar esto a Showcast es proporcionar a los usuarios algunos ejemplos de códigos, ¿no? Para procesar este tipo de datos, ¿no? Porque todos los scripts são abertos, ¿no? All the scripts are open for users. Então, pessoal, aqui a gente tem algumas das saídas do GFS que a gente está plotando aí na nova versão do Showcast. Tem muitas, eu sei que tem muitas combinações e representações de dados de modelo, mas nesse conjunto inicial de dados, eu tenho algumas sugestões de alguns colegas, e aqui eu gostaria de agradecer ao Juan José, de El Salvador, e a Regina, que é colega lá do CPTech, que deram algumas sugestões de dados iniciais. E, além disso, a ideia principal é disponibilizar para os usuários scripts exemplos, né, para que eles possam desenvolver seus próprios dados, seus próprios plots com os dados de modelo, não só os dados do GFS, mas como outros dados também. So, let's see some of the steps that are required to process this data. Here I'm using PyGrib, which is the Python library for reading grib data. So the first steps to understand the data you are dealing with, and with these instructions on the left, you may see all the data sets available on a given grib file. And for GFS data specifically, the most important info is the name of the field and the level, right? Entonces veamos algunos de los pasos que son necesarios para procesar estos datos. Yo estoy usando la librería PyGrib, que es una librería Python para leer datos grib. El primer paso es comprender, ¿no?, los datos que estamos manipulando y con las instrucciones en el lado izquierdo podemos visualizar todo el conjunto de datos que hay en un determinado archivo grid, ¿no? Y pueden ver que hay ahí cientos de datos dentro de un archivo grid de modelo. Pero para los datos de GFS específicamente lo que es más importante es el nombre e el nível de um determinado campo, não? Então, pessoal, vamos só revisar rapidamente os passos necessários para processar esses dados de modelo. Então, estou usando a biblioteca PyGrip, que é uma biblioteca Python, né, para manipular dados GRIB, e o primeiro passo é você entender o dado que você está usando. Com essas instruções, você pode exportar todas as variáveis dentro de um arquivo GRIB. E para o GFS, especificamente, o mais importante é o nome do campo e o nível do campo, que está descrito em cada linha. So after that, we may read the data, right? We need to import the PyGrid module, specify the file you want to read, the region you want to process, and finally the dataset name and level. So in this example, we are reading the U component of the wind at 200 hectopascals. So, entonces después de esto, podemos leer los datos. Necesitamos importar el módulo PyGrid, especificar el archivo que queremos leer, la región que deseamos procesar y finalmente el nombre y el nivel de la variable, ¿no? Entonces, en este ejemplo, estamos leyendo la componente U del viento em 200 hectopascales. Então, pessoal, depois de você conhecer as suas variáveis, você vai e lê a variável que você deseja. Então, aqui eu estou exportando o módulo PyGrid, determinando a imagem que eu quero ler, a região que eu desejo ler, qual que é o nome do campo e o nível do campo. Nesse caso, o componente U do vento em 200 HPA, tá? And finally, you calculate the necessary with the data you just read. So in this example, with the U and V components of the wind, you calculate the wind and speed direction, right? And in this other example below, with the absolute vorticity and the latitudes, we calculate the relative vorticities. So just to exemplify the kind of processing we are doing, entonces, finalmente, calculamos lo necesario con los datos que acabamos de leer, ¿no? En este ejemplo, con las componentes A, U y V del viento, pues calculamos la velocidad del viento, dirección del viento, y en este otro ejemplo, con la vorticidad absoluta, pues calculamos, y la latitud, ¿no? Y las latitudes calculamos la vorticidade relativa. Então, pessoal, só para exemplificar, depois que você lê os seus dados, você faz os cálculos necessários. Aqui a gente está calculando a velocidade e direção do vento com as componentes U e V, e a vorticidade relativa com a vorticidade absoluta e as latitudes. And here we have a very nice example of how to create a more complex output. In this example, the Galvez-Davidson index, or GDI, as it is known, where we need to read the surface pressure, 4 levels of temperature, 4 levels of specific humidity, and calculate many parameters in order to create the final plot. So here I would like to thank Juan Jose again for the help, and Jose Galvez that helped me debugging the code. So that's the idea, to provide users simple examples and more complex examples of data manipulation. And if you want more info on the Galvez-Davidson index, you may find this link at the slide. Entonces aquí vemos un ejemplo muy interesante de cómo crear una salida más compleja, ¿no? En este caso, el índice Galvez-Davidson, o GDI, como es conocido. Entonces, en este ejemplo leemos pues la salida, la presión de la superficie, 4 campos de temperatura, 4 campos de humedad específica, y hacemos ahí un montón de cálculos y luego llegamos ahí al plot final. Entonces, esta es la idea, proporcionar ejemplos simples y ejemplos más complejos para los usuarios. Y yo veo que en el chat, pues, apareció aquí una pregunta de Bernie, si puedes crear un plot en la misma región de la imagen de satélite. La respuesta es sí, puedes hacerlo. So I'm seeing here a question from Bernie at the chat window. It just popped up here for me. If you can match, I can't remember exactly, but if you can match this output with the satellite imagery to compare both. And yes, this is completely possible. In the training, the 6-hour training that I mentioned on the first slides, we learned how to cut the subsect, the imagery, the satellite imagery for a given region, either on the satellite, the regional projection, or reprojected. So you can, join both and compare both, okay? Então, pessoal, aqui a gente tem um exemplo bem legal, que é o índice Galvez-Davidson, ou GDI, como ele é conhecido, que é um dos exemplos, né, de ferramentas úteis aí para auxiliar os previsores. E a gente precisa ler 9 campos no total. calcular vários parâmetros para criar o plot final. Tá? Então, aqui eu só gostaria de agradecer ao Juan José novamente, lá de El Salvador, e o José Galvez por ter me ajudado aí a debugar o código, que estava dando alguns erros e tudo mais, e a gente corrigiu. Mas a ideia é essa, disponibilizar aí exemplos de mais simples e mais complexos de processamento. So, talking now about the TOAST, the Total Ocean Data Processing. On GNetcast Americas, we receive 3 files per day, as described on the notification email sent on March 15th. And these files are also in the GRIP format, so you also could use PyGRIP to process them. En Genéticas Américas también recibimos 3 archivos por día de los productos de ozono. Y como vimos, como podemos ver en este correo que fue enviado en el 15 de marzo. Y los archivos también están en el formato GRIP, por lo que también podemos usar el PyGRIP para processá-los. Então, pessoal, no sistema a gente recebe 3 arquivos de ozônio por dia, conforme a gente vê aí no e-mail de notificação, que foi enviado dia 15, e também estão no formato GRIP. A gente pode usar o PyGRIP para processar esses dados. Ok? And here we see how these plots are visualized on Showcast. E aqui vemos como estes plots são visualizados em Showcast. Então, aqui são como os plots são vistos na interface do Showcast, ok? So, in order to read them, we use the same instructions as we saw on the GFS examples. The difference here is that the name of the dataset is total ozone column, right? And it's not necessary to specify the levels in this case, right? Entonces, para leer los datos de ozono, usamos las mismas instrucciones que vimos en los ejemplos de GFS. La diferencia es que el nombre del conjunto de datos es Total Ozone Column y no es necesario especificar los niveles en este caso, ¿no? Então, pessoal, aqui é como que você lê esses dados de ozônio. É a mesma coisa do GFS, só que o nome do dataset muda e também não é necessário não é necessário especificar os níveis, tá ok? A nice detail is that with the cartopy library from Python, we may change the projection in a single line of code. I'm hearing some noise. I don't know who it is. I was saying that it is easy to change the projection with the cartopy library from Python. And here, with a single line of code, you may change from the cylindrical equidistance projection in the plot in the upper part of the example, and you may change it to the orthographic projection, for example, right? For the northern and southern hemispheres. So this is just an example of how you can change the projection easily with Python. This is also covered on the 6-hour training, okay? Changing the projection. And to finish this presentation, let's talk a little bit about the NWS ISCS messages that are on the broadcast. So the NWS ISCS activity, or the International Services and Communication Systems activity, it's, as you may see on this link, it's basically a group of message dissemination systems used to provide weather, water, and climate information to the international community. Entonces, el ISCS, o Sistemas Internacionales de Servicios y Comunicaciones del Servicio Meteorológico Nacional de Estados Unidos, es básicamente un grupo de sistemas de difusión de mensajes utilizados para diseminar informações meteorológicas, hídricas e climáticas para a comunidade internacional. E puedes encontrar mais informações neste enlace. Então, pessoal, o ISCS, ou Sistemas Internacionais de Serviços de Comunicações do Serviço Meteorológico Nacional Americano, é basicamente um grupo de sistemas que transmite essas mensagens, dissemina essas mensagens com informações meteorológicas, informações hídricas, climáticas, entre muitas outras informações para a comunidade internacional. Aqui você pode encontrar mais informações nesse link. And GeoNetcast Americas is among the dissemination mechanisms for ISCS, right? A set of ISCS data is sent through GeoNetcast Americas. Entonces, el sistema GeoNetcast Americas se encuentra entre los mecanismos de difusión de la ISCS y parte de este contenido de la ISCS es transmitido por el sistema, ¿no? Então, o sistema GeoNetcast Américas está entre os meios de disseminação desse ISCS. Parte desse conteúdo é transmitido pelo sistema. And this is what you see on GNC-A. on the GNC-A ingestion folder, where we have 12 ISCS folders, each containing a different set of information. On the GeoNetCast Americas product list, which you may find at this link, you may see a high-level description of what is found on each folder. Y esto es lo que verás en el directorio de gestión GeoNetCast Américas, donde tenemos 12 carpetas ISCS, cada una con un conjunto diferente de información. Entonces, en la lista de productos que está en este enlace, puedes ver la descripção de lo que se encontra em cada carpeta. Então, pessoal, esse é o conteúdo do ISCS que você vai encontrar na ingestão do GeoNetCast. São 12 pastas aí, com diversas informações, e na lista de produtos você tem aí uma descrição em alto nível aí, do conteúdo de cada pasta, né? So, on Showcast, this is what you see, right? On the menu on the left, you see the options that are currently available for filtering and visualization. There are still many other options from information from ISCS that are not listed yet, but it is a nice beginning, I think, and this is how it works. When Showcast is activated, it will constantly check the ISCS folders for new messages according to the user configuration. So when a new message or set of messages arrives, a pop-up window will appear and it will say that you have new messages for a particular subject. And by clicking at that option in the menu, a new browser tab will open, and you'll see all the filtered messages for that option for that day. And here I would like to thank Ricardo from the Argentine Air Force, and Gustavo from the Uruguayan Air Force, and the other Air Force colleagues for helping me to understand on how to deal with this data. Okay. Entonces en Showcast, esto es lo que puedes ver. En el menú de la izquierda puedes ver las opciones que están disponibles actualmente para el filtrado y visualización. Todavía hay muchísima información que no está listada, pero es un buen comienzo, ¿no? Y funciona así: cuando tienes el Showcast activado, pues las carpetas son monitoreadas, y cuando hay un nuevo mensaje o conjunto de mensajes, te sale una nueva ventana que indica que tienes mensajes nuevos para una categoría de datos. Y al hacer clic en esta opción, puedes ver los mensajes que fueron filtrados para uma determinada opção e um determinado país, por exemplo, não? Então, pessoal, no Showcast é isso que vocês vão ter: um menu lateral, que você tem aí as diversas opções de dados lá do sistema ISCS, e é assim que funciona. Quando você ativa o Showcast, ele começa a monitorar essas pastas, né? E quando você tem uma mensagem nova, automaticamente você vê uma janela, um pop-up, e ele indica aí que você tem novas mensagens. Você clica naquela opção, todas as mensagens para aquele determinado país ou região são filtradas e mostradas ali para o usuário. And here is another example where we have METAR messages being filtered according to the user configuration. In this example, on the Showcast configuration file, the designators SA and AG have been configured in this example, right? And SA stands for Surface Data and Aviation Routines Reports, that are the metadata, and AG is for Argentina, right? So it's not necessary for users to configure the first two letters because they are already configured by default. The user only needs to configure the last two letters for the region. For example, if I want to see metadata for Brazil, I have to configure the letters B and Z instead of A and G, sorry. So at this link on the slide, you may find all the geographical area designators, okay? Entonces aquí tenemos otro ejemplo, donde tenemos mensajes METAR que se filtran, ¿no?, de acuerdo con la configuración del usuario. Entonces en este ejemplo, en un archivo de configuración del Showcast, que es el showcastconfig.py, se han configurado los designadores SA y AG. SA son las siglas de Surface Data and Aviation Routine Reports, que son los METAR, ¿no? Y AG es para Argentina. Entonces no es necesario que el usuario configure las dos primeras letras, sino que ya están configuradas por defecto, ¿no? Sino que solo las dos últimas. Por ejemplo, si yo quiero visualizar los datos METAR para Brasil, yo tengo que configurar las letras B y C, ¿no? Y puedes encontrar todos los designadores para estos datos de ISCS en estos enlaces en la diapositiva. Então, pessoal, bem rapidinho, nesse exemplo aqui, que são dados METAR, são filtrados de acordo com a configuração do usuário, né? Então, nesse exemplo aqui, no arquivo de configuração do Showcast, o usuário configurou ali as letras SA e AG. E SA seria dado de superfície e relatórios de aviação, nesse caso é o dado METAR, né? E não é necessário que os usuários configurem aí as duas primeiras letras, porque elas já estão configuradas ali padrão, tá? Ele só precisa configurar as duas últimas, que é o país ou a região que ele deseja ver esses dados. Então, se você quiser ver os dados METAR do Brasil, você coloca BZ, ativa o Showcast e ele vai começar a filtrar essas mensagens e mostrar ela para vocês. And here we have another example of an analysis for the North Atlantic area received through the ISCS channels, filtered and visualized on Showcast. Y aquí tenemos otro ejemplo de un análisis para el área del Atlántico Norte recibido por ISCS, filtrado e visualizado em Showcast. Então, nesse slide aqui a gente tem mais um exemplo aí de uma análise recebida através do ISCS, que foi filtrada e visualizada no Showcast. And to finish, here's a slide with the release history for Showcast and the features that has been added in each version. This is the 9th release since the first one back on 2019. Entonces, para terminar, una diapositiva con el histórico de lanzamientos del Showcast y las características agregadas en cada versión. Este es el 9º lançamento desde la primeira versión. Então, pessoal, para terminar aqui, a gente tem o histórico de lançamentos do Showcast, as características adicionadas em cada versão, e essa é a 9ª atualização. So just to remember, Showcast stands for Simple HTML Operational Wrapper for GeoNetcast Americas. It is very simple. It's not a full-featured software, but the idea here is to provide users at least a nice starting point for them to develop their own stuff, like we see on this example imagery on this slide, okay? Entonces, el Showcast es una interfaz simple, ¿no? Y la idea es que los usuarios tengan un punto de partida, ¿no? Algo inicial para desarrollar sus propios productos y visualizar sus productos. Y creo que estos objetivos, estamos atingindo esses objetivos, ok? Então, pessoal, o Showcast é uma interface simples, não é assim um software de visualização complexo, né, com várias features, mas é um bom ponto de partida para os usuários desenvolverem suas próprias aplicações. All the scripts are open and they may use it. It's open source, they may use it and change it according to their needs. Todos os scripts é todo aberto e podem cambiar como desejam. É um software open source e você pode modificar de acordo com as suas necessidades. So, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please let me know. Muchas gracias a todos e obrigado, pessoal. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, so you may go to the next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Diego, are you going to share the presentation for Marn, or do you want me to?
I think William can share his presentation, right?
Okay.
He's online. Hola, William. ¿Puedes compartir tu pantalla y tu presentación?
Hola, ¿me escuchan? Hola.
Yes, perfectly. Te escuchamos.
Ok, good morning, everyone. Hola a todos. Voy a compartir mi pantalla. ¿Me avisan si logran ver mi presentación?
It is starting. Está empezando.
Ok.
And now we may see your screen. But we are seeing a folder, not the PPTs. Quizá tienes dos pantallas y estás compartiendo la otra, ¿no?
No, únicamente.
Ok.
No sé si ahora ya sale.
Todavía estamos viendo la carpeta. We're still seeing the folder.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, if we have any problems, Seth may share your presentation too.
Okay, please.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share. Okay, can you see it, William?
Yes, yes, I can see.
Just tell me next slide and I'll move it forward.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am going to talk about some issue we had with the Geonetica signal. We have an interference. Next slide, please. First, this is the distribution of our 5 Geonetica stations. We have one located at each airport and the main seaports. You can see the Ilopango Airport and the Marne building. Those are the fully working Geonetica station. The other 3 are currently in a process of recovery. Next slide, please. We have, as I said before, we have 5 Geonetica systems, fully working only 2 of them. In process to reactivate, we have 3. The problem we had is that the LMB were damaged, probably due electrical discharge. And we also are we also have the new DVB-S2 receivers, thanks to NOAA, and we are currently processing the products received by the Geonetica system. Next slide, please. Hola. Okay. This is the system we have the problem with. This is the system located at the Marne building. The antenna is located at the rooftop. As you can see in the image, it's very, very high above the ground. Next slide, please. So the problem was when the transition to the new encoding format occurred the last year, everything was configured correctly according the parameters required to the new format, but something was not working. We have a lock in the signal. We have the LMB working perfectly, but the data stream was off. So something was happening there, and we can have downloads. Something something very important we noticed was the carrier to noise value was around 0.5 dB. This means we have a lot of noise in the signal or some kind of interference. Next slide, please. This is how the normal operation have to look. We can see the 3 indicators on the NOBRA. We have the NOBRA receivers and the signal data and status are green. So this is the status of the Geonetica system located at the Ilopango Airport, where we are processing the products. Next slide, please. With help from the Office from Telecommunications of El Salvador, we found there was a frequency interfering with the frequency from GeoNetcast. And the problem was, the problem is the frequency is legally granted to a telephone company. In this case, it is Claro. I think they are in many countries from Latin America. So it is possible to many users to have the same problem. And in our case, this frequency is legally protected, so we have to do something in our case at MAR to solve that problem. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
It should be on the slide showing the distance between the interference source and MAR. Are you not seeing that?
Okay, yeah, right now it's on. So we have antenna located at the point on the right. This is the San Salvador area. We have the MAR building in the point on the left, and the problem is there is a cell phone mobile tower at the interference source. So in the next slide, please. The proposed solution by the telecommunication office was to build a screening system around the antenna, the current location, but as you can saw on the location is at the rooftop of the building, and it's very impractical to do this. And the only solution we have is to move the antenna from that point, is the point A in the image, to a location where the antenna should be screened with the building at the point B. This is in order to block the interfering signal. And this was this was something we were working last year, but due to the pandemics, we have to slow down some projects. So we haven't solved this problem yet, but we hope to solve in the future, in the near future. And this is all I wanted to share with you all the problem with the interference. And thank you.
Thank you, William. I guess one question with what is the distance between the source and MAR?
Let me look.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess roughly, I just want to know what you would think as far as the distance between the two of them. I don't think I have a.
I don't have the actual distance, but it's around 20 kilometers, I think.
Okay.
But the problem is with this telephone companies have a lot of antennas around the country. So this in particular is for mobile network, and the law currently those frequencies are currently legally assigned, so we can do anything to prevent
Yeah.
they interfere with us.
No. Okay. Well, I appreciate sharing this with us because this is an actually interesting scenario, and it seems the mitigation of it is essentially using the building as a mask for
Yeah,
the interference, the cellular tower interference. Now, one would wonder as far as if there's another antenna that gets built on the other side of the building once you do move it. So, do you know if the cellular, I guess you could say the organization that helped you understand exactly the interfere and such, did they, or is there any kind of coordination as far as understanding where the towers are and where they could be in conjunction to your GeoNetcast receive stations?
yeah. We have to. We had to look for help with the telecommunications people because, on the first hand, we don't have the equipment to look for what was the signal interfering with us, and they went with a signal analyzer and found that signal in particular. So they were the ones we recommend the screening system and the antenna, change the antenna location.
Okay, no, that's it's interesting. This is something back in here in the United States is something we're paying very close attention to. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
I will guess
Yeah,
we go ahead.
no, I just would like to thank William for sharing this. He shared the preliminary report with me some a while ago when I shared with a couple of Brazilian users, and they said that this preliminary report is helping them solving this problem too. Okay, the
Yes.
same problem. They had the station working on DVB-S, and then when they changed it to DVB-S2, it stopped it all of a sudden. So thank you very much, William.
And that's a very good point to bring as far as the workstations or the receiver itself. When if it does give a carrier to noise or EBNO, anything that's that drastically low tells you that you have a lot of noise in and around your spectrum. So that's a great example of interference, and it shows because I think the signal strength is sort of still showing. So lock, but no data. I'm going to stop sharing at this time. And I believe we can open up the floor for any questions. I think I seen a couple questions via Slido, and I think I've
Uh,
answered.
Seth?
Go ahead.
No, just would like to comment that it's not possible to send questions to everyone or messages to everyone on the chat. Paul tried to correct that in the beginning, but it's not working right now. So just a quick comment on that. So we should look only on Slido. There's not possible to send questions through the chat now, right?
Okay, but users can, I guess, unmute right now to ask questions.
We we have some comments on Slido regarding the Ghost DCS, Seth.
Yes, I did see Horach's questions. I believe, like I've mentioned on Slido, we've talked before about this. So I believe Peru is one example that has been tracking this. I believe we've had correspondence back in before HRED Emlyn went live as well. So one of the questions, like I mentioned during the slide today, was getting an understanding of exactly who needs this, who needs the DCS data. Other questions would be is how do you get the DCS data right now, and how do you visualize that? I think there's open DCS software that's available to users that utilize the LRGS terrestrial internet. So some of those questions are the ones that I wanted to gain, and I think I also answered the question about MWIN as far as how. Actually, I'll let you do that, Diego. I think you kind of showed that within Showcase you can configure anything off the ISCS, any text message you can get off ISCS and more or less have showcast configured to show that message. I believe you mentioned like there's a possibility of also putting alarms to it too, right? It's like audio alarms.
Yes, for now in this first release, I did the basic, right? Just filtering the data and showing the data there, showing a pop-up window. But everything is possible, right? So whenever is needed, we can implement using Python, for example. So if you need a sound, for example, a continuous sound, it may be implemented. So I need user feedback on that, if what they need, and I can implement that. Entonces, sobre la pregunta de lo que está en Slido, sobre los mensajes de Ramwing, de tsunamis, si se pueden configurar los tipos de mensajes, las alarmas, pues en este primer lanzamiento, pues está lo básico, ¿no? El filtrado de los mensajes y una ventanita ahí de pop-up que sale cuando recibes un mensaje nuevo. Y entonces puedes ver ahí el filtrado de los mensajes para el día. Pero si necesitas, por ejemplo, una alarma continua, un sonido continuo o algún otro tipo de acción, un correo, por ejemplo, un correo que se envía automáticamente, todo es posible. Todo es posible con Python. Okay, so if he needs a continuous sound or an email to be sent automatically or anything, everything is possible. Okay. But it's not implemented yet, so I really want to hear these feedbacks, right? So we can adapt it to what people really need. Okay.
This is Paul. I reset the chat to everybody. It should be working again now.
Bernie asked if the Toast product has an SO2 product, and I don't have any idea, Seth.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Bernie asked on the chat privately if we know if the Toast product has an SO2 dataset. I don't think that this product has, but we do have other products with that, right?
I will have to check that. From what the list that the product distribution access system has for Toast is it was large, and essentially what I was trying to do was match what Natalia already had on the broadcast existing. And I don't think before we never put SO2 on the broadcast. That's a good question, Bernie. I'll have to get back to you and see if that actually is available product. To tell you the truth, I don't think it is, but I did get 3 different spreadsheets from the actual product area lead in NOAA on that product. So I think I gave you those spreadsheets, Diego.
Okay. Oh, she asked it on the slide. Yeah, that's the question she asked.
Yeah, I'll have to get back. I'll have to get back on that one.
There we go.
I think one question follow up was for Luis from Peru. Can you unmute if you would like talk about DCS? If you have any questions or comments with DCS, and Jorge kind of like pointed in your direction.
Me, I'm Jorge Chira. I don't know if I can speak in Spanish to other people that don't speak English very well.
You can speak Spanish, and I think Diego can possibly translate.
Okay. I don't know. Yo no sé el caso de los demás países en la región 3 de OMM, pero en Perú nosotros utilizamos como medio de comunicación principal el GOES-DSS. Este es el principal medio de comunicación y nos ayuda para lo que son los pronósticos, para hacer los avisos de peligros. Este sistema de comunicación es muy importante. Nosotros no tenemos un sistema de recepción, una estación terrena para recibir esos datos del GOES-DSS y utilizamos Internet a través del RRGS. y el Senami ha construido su propio software para leer esos datos. Sería fabuloso que se pudieran recibir esos datos a través del GeoNetCast, porque otras provincias en el interior del país podrían adquirir esa antena GeoNetCast y recibir sus datos para poder tenerlos más a la mano, ¿no? Y no depender necesariamente de lo que nosotros en Lima podemos darle. O sea, incluso para nosotros mismos, si ocurriera un problema con Internet, estaríamos sin datos, ¿no? Entonces, realmente para nosotros es muy importante que esos datos se puedan transmitir también a través del GOES-DSS. Gracias.
So thank you, Jorge. Gracias, Jorge. So Jorge said that he's not aware of the current situation in other countries in the region 3, but in Peru they use the DCS a lot as a mean of communication system. It's they use a lot this communication system for forecasting and other things. So it's very important. They do not have a receive station for that. They only use the internet. Senami built their own software to visualize it or to process this data. And it would be great to have this data through GNC-A so other provinces can set up a receive station and have this data independent of Senami. So if there's no internet, they can't send this data to the other provinces. So it would be nice to have on GeoNetCast Americas. Hey, I wonder what kind of programming language they use it to develop their own software. Hey, Jorge, ¿qué usaron para desarrollar el software? ¿Qué lenguaje o qué tecnología?
Diego, esa pregunta me gustaría que la pudiera responder mi amigo Luis Vera, pero no sé si él
A ver,
está
¿aló?
bien escuchándome. Sí. Lucho.
Sí, ¿me escuchan?
Sí,
¿Aló,
sí,
me escuchan?
escuchamos.
Sí, ya. Buenas. Luis Vera de Senami, Perú. Sí, nosotros desarrollamos en nuestro propio servidor un software en línea, no en línea, con lenguaje C. Creo que es un lenguaje C porque era PER, pero ahora es lenguaje C, que llega la data y sabemos leerla, inclusive nosotros como técnicos sabemos leerla y la programamos, ¿no? Y entonces apenas llega la trama de las estaciones, la hemos programado y la almacenamos en una base de datos, Oracle. Apenas llega la información, bueno, a veces hasta con 2, 3 minutos depende de la periodicidad que hemos programado, ¿no? Vamos a pedir inclusive que se programe mucho más rápida porque creo que está cada 5, cada 10 minutos que lea, trama y decodifica. Pero apenas decodifica, inmediatamente ya está disponible en un visor que también hemos desarrollado nosotros. Pero ese visor sí es en web, o sea, en página web, entras con un usuario, un password para todo el personal Senami Perú y ve su estación, ve sus datos y que recién han llegado hoy día o lo histórico. Eso es un poco lo que quiero decir.
Thank you very much, Luis. So Luis Vera from Senami said that they have developed their own software using the C programming language to deal with the DCS data. They know how to read it, and they have created this program, and it gets the data from the stations and store this data in a database. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to read and decode the data. So they have also developed a web viewer to visualize the data and even historical data. Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. If they could do that using C language, so I imagine that once you understand that, you can implement a decoder and like we did with ISDS. So we could create an open option to deal with the DCS data too. So thank you. Gracias, Luis.
So I guess one question to follow up. I did respond to Jorge's response to in Slido. And one question would be is that right now data is available in files. And essentially those files are .dcs files, which I'm not 100% certain. And I might have to go back to talk to the people that actually created these the files for the H.R.M. broadcast. So that is essentially one mean to look at it. And one of those files is about 8 kilobytes total in file size, but it contains about 30 to 50 individual DCS messages. So that's one avenue of getting the data over a broadcast, but it would be upon the user to be able to take that 8 kilobyte file and decipher the individual 30 to 50 messages that are embedded within it to find their data set.
Entonces Seth está comentando que ahora mismo los datos de DCS están disponibles también en archivos, que son archivos ahí de 30 kilobytes que tienen ahí 30 a 50 datos de DCS. Entonces los usuarios estarían responsables en decodificar estos datos, ¿ok? Okay, Seth.
Thanks. One other thing to mention to Tsunami and Jorge and Luis is the other aspect of updating the product description tables within DADS. I don't know if you have access or not, but that is an ongoing effort, and one of the things that helps NOAA understand exactly where these data collection platforms are, who are the correct point of contact, and such. So currently, I'm kind of looking through that database right now to see exactly what is the overlap with GeoNetcast users that we know of and data collection platform owners. So to reiterate for Jorge and Luis and anybody else that's on the call, the next DCS TWG or technical working group is coming up here on I can't remember what date. I think it's the April 26th and April 27th. I believe you should have already gotten emails out. So this could be a topic we could talk about at that time as well. Any other questions?
Una otra cosa que desea comentar a Senami es que sería el tema de actualizar la lista de productos y datos en el tab para ayudar a la NOAA a entender, comprender dónde están las estaciones, entre otras cosas, ¿no? Para ver cuál sería el overlap, ¿no? De usuarios GeoNetcast y usuarios de CS. Entonces, habrá una próxima reunión de CS en 26 o 27 de abril y este es un tópico para discusión. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
A ti, Jorge.
Are there any other questions? I think we've answered everything within chat and Slido at this point in time. So if anybody has a question, they want to go hot on the mic, please, by all means. Well, I think that pretty much covers it. I don't see any more questions. So
Hice una pregunta a Williams en el chat. I did a question to William in the chat, and I don't know, and the rest of people have the same trouble with interference, radio frequency interference, but I think we must to register this frequency in the ministry, in the respective ministry, to avoid this kind of trouble. I don't know if they did it before this trouble. Thanks.
So yeah, I think I do remember that, William. So one question that was asked was, did you register? I think that was the question, right? Did you not register your frequency in the Ministry of Transport and Communications before?
Okay, the problem is because this is a space air system transmission, the current law doesn't allow that. So they classified our GeoNetcast frequency as free use. So there is no protection for interference from other sources.
All right. Are there any other questions? I think Paul did mention something in the chat to make the point that GeoNetcast would be a backup system to the official broadcast, and I think that was in relation to DCS. Correct, Paul?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Yes, and Paul brings up an excellent point. The data collection, the actual data collection broadcast off the relay transponder off the GO satellites would be the primary source of getting the DCS data, with HRT being a point of backup as well for DCS. So this would be technically a backup system or another means of getting distributing DCS data to users.
Yep. Unless that were to change in the future with
GeoXO.
GeoXO.
Correct. And we'll hope, and I hope to have the next quarterly meeting. I think we hope to have a little bit more information as far as GeoXO, possibly another similar to what Natalia has distributed 6 months ago in September, as far as what the architecture should look like, and what that means to users in the future. So I hope to have more information with that. It's been kind of delayed a little bit, I should say. There is open data, or there's an actual web link for users to go to access NESDIS official GeoXO page. I can put that in chat. I forgot to put a slide on that. I did do that for the HRT one. But if there's no other questions, I think we can wrap this up. Should look for the next user group meeting probably in the June timeframe, unless Diego has any thoughts to.
No, I think it is okay. The only suggestion, Seth, is to have it on 17Z instead of 15.
17Z. Okay, so the one
I think. Yeah, that is that. I think that would be better. 15Z. It's, for example, it's noon here in Brazil, and it's not optimal for get most participation. So
I agree.
yeah, and that's why we have a few participants from Brazil here. So I think that 17Z it's a better option for these webinars.
No, I agree, because lunch hour is never good for meeting for me, and it's the same for me as well. I just chose this because I do have an HRT1 user group meeting coming up here in a couple hours. So I just kind of wanted to separate myself, make sure I have enough time to eat food myself, and have Paul's assistance. So that's the reason why I did choose this time. So hopefully the next time it would be offset from the lunch hour. I did put the GeoXO in the chat, so if anybody is interested in seeing exactly what the latest and greatest is from NESDIS as far as GeoXO, it's in there. I think that's all I have for now. So I thank everybody for the ones for attending, and any questions, please send them to Diego or myself, especially with any of the interest as far as the outreach aspect of it. And have a good day. Good.
Hey, Seth, just a final comment in Spanish. What you said about GeoXO. So, entonces, Seth espera tener más informaciones sobre GeoXO, que es la próxima generación de satélites ambientales de NOAA. Y espera tener más informaciones en el próximo webinar sobre la arquitectura y informaciones útiles para los usuarios en el futuro. Hay una página web con informaciones del GeoXO y se envió por el chat el link de esta página. Entonces, muchas gracias. So, thank you, Seth. Thank you, everyone. Obrigado a
All right,
todos.
thank you. I'm going to hop off. Thank you.
Obrigado, pessoal. Muchas gracias a todos. Thanks.